Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I've been meaning to get to this recent post by Elder Bednar, but for some reason it's taken me a week. There's been all these other things that have popped up that I've made videos about, but I did not forget about this. And I feel like this is significant. So this is my latest quote on my spreadsheet called Quotes Second Coming, and let's just get into it. He says, if you're a lifelong member of the church, when you were young, you remember people saying, the day will come when temples will dot the earth. Ever heard that? You're living in it. That's not something down the road. It's right now. Could you have ever even entertained the thought that there would be a temple in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea? Are you kidding me? Or in Elko, Nevada? So think of the day in which we live and the things that we're able to participate in. The Lord is hastening his work, and our job is to not get in the way and mess it up. We don't hasten the work, he does. He is. In the early days of the church, the call was to come to Zion. The gathering was in Kirtland. The gathering was in Nauvoo. The gathering was in Salt Lake. And Joseph taught that the purpose of the gathering in every age is to have the people, the resources, the capacity to build houses of the Lord so that the people can receive their ordinances and be blessed by the covenants. It's about him. It's his house. And through the ordinances and the covenants of the priesthood, we are blessed with the power of godliness. Okay, so for the two topics that I have in columns E and F, I have hastening and temples. And wow, has there been a lot of hastening quotes lately. It is just off the charts. So there's a few things I want to talk about when it comes to this quote. The first part where he's talking about when you were young, did you ever hear people say you'll see the day when temples will dot the earth? And yeah, I do remember that. I've been a lifelong member of the church. And I don't know when the first time was that I saw these animations on YouTube. This is the oldest one that I was able to find. It's from 2018, President Nelson's first year as president of the church. But I swear on Facebook, I'd seen older ones, but they update them. And it's this animation, this video where it shows a timeline of temples dotting the earth. You know, so you have this one, it ended at 151, but that was back in 2018. And there's updated ones. This one is on Called to Share. I met him back in October, so make sure to subscribe to his channel if you're not already. And he has this one from 2022. He also has an updated one. But I think that this was a very popular animation or video that's been on social media for a while. And I always thought that it was pretty incredible, but every single conference that goes by, there's more and more dots showing up on this map. And I have to wonder what it's going to look like, 5 years down the road, 10, 15, 20. By the time I die, it's going to be wild. And I fully expect, I'm not going to dictate the future, but based on everything that I've done with this channel, all the quotes I've collected and looking at signs, I fully expect that as long as I'm righteous and don't have an untimely death, I expect to live to 100 years old because I'll be living in the millennium. What's it going to look like? What's it going to look like at that point? So, yeah, this is not the year 2000. It's not 1990. Back when I was much younger, things are crazy right now. And it really seems like they want us to wake up and notice what's going on. Now, I decided to add a new phrase to my spreadsheet called Timeline Phrases. I don't know how many more I'm going to put on this spreadsheet. I feel like I've searched all the main things having to do with the second coming and other interesting topics. If you're new to my channel, what I do is I go to the Scripture Citation Index by BYU. You can search General Conference talks going back to 1942. In this case, I searched for the term dot the earth, and I did check by context. So I was checking for any time that they were talking about temples dotting the earth. There is one quote at the bottom that does not have to do with temples, so I didn't include that. But I take the tally by year and then put it on this timeline. And what we see for dot the earth is there's been a sudden spike in 2024 with 3 general conference talks that have used that phrase, and then one so far for 2025. You go back in time and you do see some more. This is back when President Hinckley was announcing all those temples. When that was going on, it blew my mind. I remember a time before President Hinckley, and when all these small temples were being announced, it was just crazy. Back then, I feel like that woke a lot of people up as to the time that we're living in. So you have that scattered throughout his presidency, and there's a few during President Monson's presidency, and then there's one during the last year of President Benson's presidency. But before that, you don't see it at all. Not going back to 1942. So I always like to look at this spreadsheet that I put together and imagine if you were to give this to somebody from 1942, and you didn't give them any context, you didn't let them know what was going on. They just had to kind of piece things together based on the data that's available here. What would they think as they, fast forward through time? I'm sure that they'd be like, wow, what is going on around the year 2000 and what's going on in 2024 and 2025. And there are so many eye-opening things on this spreadsheet, but I can't cover them all now. But the link for my spreadsheet is in the description box below. You can access this anytime. Again, this is the spreadsheet called Timeline Phrases. There's all these people looking at it right now as I'm making this video. It keeps you anonymous and it assigns you an animal like anonymous alligator and dolphin and loris and tiger, goose, and cheetah and tiger. Oh, did I say tiger? I think I did. Okay, so yeah, we're living in a very special time. I'll be interested to see if we see this phrase more going forward. But this makes me think about President Nelson's October 2024 General Conference talk, The Lord Jesus Christ Will Come Again. We've read this a million times over, but let's do it again. He said, "My dear brothers and sisters, do you see what is happening right before our eyes? I pray that we will not miss the majesty of this moment. The Lord is indeed hastening his work. Why are we building temples at such an unprecedented pace? Why? Because the Lord has instructed us to do so. The blessings of the temple help to gather Israel on both sides of the veil. These blessings also help to prepare a people. To prepare a people who will prepare the world for the second coming of the Lord." So this is obviously tied to the work of salvation in general, but he's also pointing out that right now, what's going on? A big part of it is to prepare for the second coming. So this is really exciting. I also want to point back to this recent quote. This is from May 9th of this year. And this is Elder D. Todd Christofferson of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. This was a BYU Pathway Worldwide Devotional. And I just want to read something that Elder Christofferson said right here. He says, "As you think about the second coming, preparations for the second coming, the real preparation is people. It's a people preparing a people to receive the Lord. And so it's all about not so much events as it is about people." So again, I don't mean to be a broken record. Timelines are great, trying to figure out what prophecies still need to be fulfilled. I don't have that frame of mind. I feel like one day we're going to be informed, oh, this prophecy has been fulfilled. The second coming is going to happen, the final appearance. And we're going to look back and be like, oh, that's how everything was supposed to play out. And that's what that prophecy meant. That's what it actually looked like. And I feel like this goes along with that. It's not so much about, the church being established in Independence, Missouri, moving church headquarters or these things. Like, I mean, those things will play out how they will, but the more important part is the people that are being prepared. And I think that tells us a lot more than some of these other things. Um, so, and then we have Elder Rasband in this last general conference who really emphasized this point. The name of his talk was Right Before Our Eyes, which was a nod to President Nelson's talk. And he actually posted this recently on social media, part of this talk. I want to read from his social media post. It's this one right here. This was posted on July 7th of this year. Hastening is a word that matters. It suggests moving quickly, accelerating, and even urgency. In the growth of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the plan of Christ, a hastening is occurring right now. That's something that Elder Bednar just said. He said right now. And now Elder Rasband is also highlighting that. A hastening is occurring right now, and you are all a part of it. We see the Lord hastening his work in missions around the world. Many more missionaries are serving, including teaching, service, and senior couples, and they are entering the Lord's vineyard at a time when we continue to see miracles. But more than numbers, the spirit of the gathering is bringing souls to Jesus Christ and his gospel. I express profound gratitude to the Lord for his work and encourage us to live in thanksgiving daily for the many mercies and blessings which he doth bestow upon us. I just want to point out all these hastening quotes that we're seeing. So look at column E, or any cell that has this cream color that says hastening. We've been seeing a lot of hastening talk this year. This is all from this year. Look over here, 2025. How many hastenings do we have? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 already this year. It really seems like they're trying to let us know that things are accelerating, that they're hastening, that we're trying to hurry and be prepared for the second coming. In a recent video, we covered this devotional. This was an area-wide devotional with President Oaks, but the speaker in this quote is Elder Reuben V. Aliad of the 70. And he was mostly focusing on Europe, but he was saying that he believes that this is a hinge point in the history of Europe, a special time for Europe. The Lord is hastening his work as he promised. The church in Europe is growing at an accelerated pace. We are being blessed with more convert baptisms than ever before. And then he goes on and he talks about the second coming and just saying that incredible things are happening in Europe. This is a very special time. We have this one that we just read from Elder Rasband. I want to read this one from Elder Cook. This is from Church News, June 19th, 2025. An article by Mary Richards focusing on the missionary purposes leading to miracles in the Lord's work, says Elder Cook. Elder Cook said that in 2024, we witnessed over 308,000 of God's children enter the waters of baptism and receive the precious gift of the Holy Ghost. That equates to about 50,000 more convert baptisms than 2023. It is more convert baptisms than the church has had in nearly 25 years. Quote, and as exciting as this increase in baptisms was in 2024, we were delighted to learn that the rate of increase for new members attending sacrament meeting was even higher. We thank the Lord for allowing us to witness his hand in these remarkable outcomes. He is the reason for the hastening, Elder Cook said. He said this quote-unquote spiritual momentum has continued to increase in 2025. Comparing the first quarter of this year with the first quarter of 2024, every region of the world has seen at least a 20% increase in convert baptisms. That is pretty substantial. All right, continuing. This is remarkable, he said. In the last 12 months, ending May 31st, the Lord's hastening of his work resulted in the largest number of convert baptisms in any 12-month period in this dispensation. So, people joining the church, temples being built, in so many other things. We've talked about hastening in relation to education and family history and stuff like that. And then I just want to point out part of this one. This is also an article by Mary Richards, Celebrating a Century, Latter-day Saints Commemorate 100 Years in South America, Church News, June 18th, 2025. As Elder Stevenson spoke to different groups in Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile during June, he testified to them that the Lord is hastening his work, and he quoted President Russell M. Nelson, who said, "The best is yet to come." That is so exciting. Later on, I'm going to skip down to this last paragraph. Quote, "We are celebrating these 100 years just as it was announced in the dedicatory blessing. The growth would start slowly and then become exponential. And we trust what was taught in the last conference, that the next 100 years will be even better," as President Nelson said. So, and I have another quote, I'm not going to look it up right now, but President Nelson said that not just for South America or Argentina, but for the whole world, that we're just at the exponential phase of growth. It's incredible. And then just a couple more things. This quote that we just read from Elder Bednar in this social media post, it makes me think about this. Okay, so on my quotes A through Z spreadsheet, this is currently row 511 for season, greatest in the history of the church. Elder Bednar has really been repeating this idea that this is the greatest season in the history of the church. I have all these quotes, and they're all from Elder Bednar. I'm going to read this one because I feel like this kind of summarizes it pretty good. This is from a Church News article by Sarah Jane Weaver, Press Forward with Faith. Elder and Sister Bednar tells Snow College students in Ephraim, October 17th, 2023. Elder Bednar shared that while he was in Rexburg, he sat by President Gordon B. Hinckley at a dinner one evening. President Hinckley said to him emphatically, quote, "David, this is the greatest season in the history of the restored church." Then he continued, not speaking about me individually, but about our generation. "I only have one regret. I will not be here to see it, but you will." And it's interesting because when we go back to this timeline of phrases, President Hinckley's over here, and that season in which he lived was already pretty incredible. I remember that very vividly. It was during this time that I went on my mission, and I was very excited about how the church was progressing, advancing, how things were accelerating. But you have to wonder if he saw prophetically, maybe in vision even, what's going on right now and what's to come. Because this is almost like President Nelson is like round two. It's like temple building 2.0. This was 1.0 where we had this big number of temples that were announced and constructed, and now it's even more. It's crazy. So, yeah, Elder Bednar's here now, and he referenced this being an amazing time. And then I just want to finish with this. What he said reminds me of this quote. I have this on my spreadsheet called Quotes, Common Misconceptions. The topic is New Jerusalem. The misconception is the entire church still has to be gathered to New Jerusalem, Jackson County, Missouri. Okay, so this is from a Church News YouTube video, April 13th, 2023. He says, if you take a look at the construction of temples, you begin to see in the 1970s increased construction of temples all around the world. What we're seeing now is an acceleration of what began in the 1970s and bringing the temples closer to the people. That is a magnificent thing to behold in this remarkable season of the history of the church. I think this is one of the greatest indications that the restoration is going on. In the early history of the church, the call to the Latter-day Saints all over the world was come to Zion, come to Kirtland, come to Nauvoo, come to Salt Lake. And Joseph taught that the purpose of the gathering was so that the saints would be in a position, in a place where temples could be built. They needed the resources. They needed the skills to be able to do that. But that began to change in the administration of President Kimball. When he and other church leaders said, no, stay where you are, don't come to Salt Lake City, this is not the only place where you find Zion. So for the saints in Argentina, Zion is in Argentina. The great blessing is that in a world that grows increasingly dark and increasingly wicked, access to the power of godliness through the covenants and ordinances of the gospel of Jesus Christ is one of the greatest spiritual resources and blessings the members have. So the video is not really about this misconception, but there's this idea that the entire church has to come to Jackson County, Missouri, that those that are wise, the wise virgins are going to make their way here, and there's going to be World War III going on all around, or a civil war, or something like that, and that the city is going to be protected by supernatural means, and it's going to be just this. It's kind of like sci-fi, and I don't think that that's the case because of all these quotes that I've collected. Let me just point to a couple before we finish off. So we have Joseph Smith himself. This is a discourse, the 19th of July, 1840, reported by Martha Jane Knowlton Curray. It says, afterwards, read the parable of the 12 olive trees and said, speaking of the land of Zion, that it consists of all North and South America, but that any place where the saints gather is Zion, which every righteous man will build up for a place of safety for his children. Okay, because that's the thing. A lot of people look at this, they'll read scriptures that say, oh, well, you're supposed to go there because it's supposed to be for defense and refuge from the storm, and that means you have to physically go to Jackson County. No, that's not the case. Here we have President Brigham Young, Journal of Discourses, Volume 9, page 138. When Joseph first revealed the land where the saints should gather, a woman in Canada asked if we thought that Jackson County would be large enough to gather all the people that would want to go to Zion. I will answer the question really as it is. Zion will extend eventually all over this earth. There will be no nook or corner upon the earth but what will be in Zion. It will all be Zion. I remember the lady was answered by asking whether she thought the ark was large enough to hold all those that were to go into it in the days of Noah. Yes, was the reply. Then, of course, Zion will be just large enough to receive all that will be prepared to possess it, as the ark was. And then here's the last one, also from Brigham Young. Journal of Discourses, Volume 18, page 355. Are we going back to Jackson County? Yes. When? As soon as the way opens up. Are we all going? Oh no, of course not. The country is not large enough to hold our present numbers. When we do return there, will there be any less remaining in these mountains than we number today? No, there may be 100 then for every single one that there is now. And that sounds a lot like today. And think about the size of the church back then. And he was saying that there wasn't enough in Jackson County to sustain their current numbers, and how much the church has grown since that time. But anyway, this is something that I've heard Elder Bednar say a number of times. I feel like he's trying to correct that misconception that people will read the scriptures and try and make sense of them, like Doctrine and Covenants, for example, and then put together these ideas that, oh yeah, the day's going to have to come that we're going to be living like it's the 1800s again. You're going to have a hand cart, or make sure you have some kind of transportation to, travel the highways and avoid the civil war that's going on and make your way to Jackson County. No. Okay, but anyway, there is a hastening going on. It's very apparent. I'm trying to track this every time that it's talked about, and things have really picked up, especially this year. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.